Lady Colin Campbell, we are just days away from the totally unanticipated release of With Love, Meghan Series 2. However, it seems like things are far worse behind the scenes for this relationship commercially, for this brand, for the marriage. Shooter Scoot is actually, this is Rob Shooter on Substack, revealing that the entire brand is now teetering on the brink of collapse.
Dan, one tear left eye.
No sympathy, shall we say.
But isn't it wonderful that what we have been saying for months, they are all rising up to as a fact finally? I mean, we've been pretty much saying that there was no possibility of any of this working out properly because Netflix wasn't funding it. They don't have the money. And she is hopelessly chaotic. And she's never had her supply lines sorry, Aurora has come to join us. She's never had her supply lines in place. I mean, she is thoroughly chaotic. And Meghan doesn't seem to understand that just because she acts as if means it's going to happen. I mean, that might have been able to dupe people on her way up when she was acting as if she was a decent and concerned person. But it doesn't work commercially. You know, they have spent a lot of money promoting themselves and thinking that by doing that, that would promote the product without promoting the product. They haven't done the investigations that you need to do to find out what is going to appeal and what isn't. And the worst of all is that Meghan is trying to sell a lifestyle brand and a dream of her image and her reputation. But Meghan is disliked universally. And every time she opens up her mouth or does something, she's disliked even more. And I'm afraid people want to buy dreams, not nightmares.
Oh my God, I know. So true. Well, a couple of things to pick up on there. First, you're completely correct because, of course, this whole series was filmed so long ago. So none of the as ever product is actually going to feature within it. So I don't think it will provide that much of a boost. But certainly, I totally agree when you talk about actually what she's selling, because this week she reluctantly, and this is only because the wine just isn't selling now, decided to take to Instagram and post this video, sort of Gwyneth Paltrow style, which was meant to be her casually cooking in her own home, Lady C. But I know you're much more of a cook than I am, but to me, I look at this and I just think it's basic bitch cooking. She's not selling me any dream at all. I don't believe she even enjoys this process. There's no love to this. There's no passion. It's so brittle, all of her movements. What did you make of it?
Dan, Bachelor of Science, BS. And it's all very basic stuff that you could actually buy in Tesco ready meals that would be even better tasting than anything she comes up with. And I mean, if you're selling a dream, it needs to be something that is beyond people's reach. Meghan is trying to sell brain surgeons, textbooks on basic biology.
Yeah, that's for sure, in more ways than one. But Lady C, given that there really doesn't seem like any prospect of this series exploding any more than series 1, it's been released in a very low-key way. Netflix hasn't put any big promotion or marketing behind it. At this point, they have only confirmed the Christmas special as the new episode. Is there a way that she can salvage a series 3 out of this?
Yes, there is. She can become Catherine. Otherwise, I'm afraid it's not going to work. I mean, the problem is that Meghan is selling herself. This is everything is built around her as a personality and her as an object of desirability. But people have now seen through her. They don't regard her as desirable. She has too many bodies stinking up her environment, starting with her father, the king, Catherine, her sister Samantha, and let's not forget the nearly 100 people whom she has crossed since she entered the royal family. I'm referring to members of staff, because it's well over 30, I understand, in California alone, and more like 40 or 50. And then, of course, there are all of the Sussex survivors here, and the servants at the palace. Sorry, nowadays you have to say staff. Sorry. I'm Jamaican. I speak about servants. Sorry. Anyway, the staff at Buckingham Palace, and I'm not referring to the courtiers, I'm referring to the serving staff, who also evidently came a cropper as a result of her dissatisfactions. Remember, there was an incident which I recount in my book, Meghan and Harry, the Real Story, where she decided that something wasn't properly ironed, and in a very haughty and totally unacceptable way. I don't remember the exact words now, because it's years ago that I wrote it. But basically, she was saying to this member of staff who would obviously have been a maid, I remember what she said. Do you call this pressed? This isn't properly pressed. Press it again, and threw it down. Now, I'm sorry, you do not speak to staff like that. You may speak to your social equals like that, because they are in a position to defend themselves and come back at you. But you do not speak to staff like that. So I would imagine now there are about 100 people who, if they were not all muzzled with the Official Secrets Act and what's it called?
The
Where you sign
NDAs, the non-disclosure
NDAs.
agreements.
If they were there, if they hadn't been muzzled and tied up with NDAs and the Official Secrets Act, I think they would be singing like Caruso.
And Lady C, why has Harry not got involved at all for the promotion of As Ever, which is so desperately needed? And why has Meghan stayed completely quiet in regards to Send to Bali, despite a whole load of pressure being put on her to defend her husband's name? Is there trouble again?
I think the two motives, are separate. Meghan, I said it a year ago, and so did you, that we had been told that Netflix had instructed Meghan and Harry to separate themselves professionally, really, because she was actually, they needed to find a way to hopefully get her to be commercially acceptable and relatable. And she wasn't proving to be. So that's Meghan's motive for having hived off. Harry, of course, is not a businessman. Harry has no real concept of how to make money. And why would he? He spent his whole life pampered and petted.
It is. And Lady C, we've also seen this week Harry continue what I think is becoming an increasingly deranged campaign to try and win positive publicity via the mainstream media in the United Kingdom. Two stories. First, we had the leak of the letter, the apparently private letter to Prince Philip, or about Prince Philip, indeed, on VJ Day, which just happened coincidentally to end up in the hands of Cameron Walker of GB News. Cameron Walker of GB News, who's best mates with Omid Scobie. So there you go. What a coincidence that was. Then we also saw in the Sunday Times via Roy Anika this attempt to suggest that the Duke of Westminster is trying to reconcile Prince William and Prince Harry in some way by potentially making them both godfather to his newborn daughter. But as Tom Sykes of The Royalist pointed out, there's no way that Hugh Grosvenor is going to put a reconciliation ahead of his interests, which are very much aligned with Prince William. So what did you make of both of those stories?
Okay, let's take the Westminster thing first. Hugh Westminster is a cousin, a distant cousin, but a cousin of William as well. The Tally Westminster, his mother, is also the one who is the closer cousin. But his father, Gerald, was also very close to the royal family. And they actually the Westminsters are intermarried into the royal family through the Battenbergs. But this is a sort of early 20th century marriage. But they've all been great friends. And Hugh Westminster's parents, Gerald and Tally, used to go regularly to stay with Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, who was a much closer cousin, incidentally, of Tally's than Elizabeth was. They used to go regularly to stay with the Queen and Prince Philip at Sandringham. And her grandmother, Lady Ziaverna, who was Grand Duke Mikhailovich of Russia's daughter, she lent them Luton, her house, for part of their honeymoon. And every year, the Queen and Prince Philip used to spend their honeymoon celebrations at Luton until it was sold. So that's the background to how close the families are and have been for generations. They're distant cousins, but they're very close friends as well. And royalty doesn't normally have friends, as some people say. They have friendly relationships. Well, that's not true where the Westminsters are concerned. They are fully paid up friends. And there is no way that Hugh Westminster would ever be playing peacemaker with William and Harry, because everybody in royal circles knows that William regards Harry as beyond the pale and never wants to hear his name, much less countenance anybody pushing a reconciliation or the concept of it upon him. And, the press will go on and on about, and Roy Anika, with due respect, of course, she's going to be going on, and all of them will go on and on about a reconciliation because it plays well for them and it sells newspapers, but it's not going to happen. And it's very unlikely as well that anybody would have two warring brothers as godfathers to their daughter, because normally you have, if a daughter has more godmothers than godfathers, and a son has more godfathers than goddaughters. Maybe the public don't understand this, but this is the form. Now, I've forgotten what the other one was. What
Well,
was the other one?
so then the other one, remember, was the leaked letter to Cameron Walker, which Harry had apparently placed as a private tribute for VJ Day, and it just happened to get into the hands of Cameron Walker at GB News. Cameron Walker just happens to be BFFs with Omid Scobie.
Well, that's so private, but let's remember Harry's sense of privacy was to let us know the state of his penis as well as Prince William's.
Indeed.
So Harry's concept of privacy is not anything that you or I would recognize. And if it were a private letter and not the clear manipulation that it is, it would not have needed to be posted the way it was, and it would not have needed to have been revealed the way it was. It is a cynical exercise in Harry muscling in, and Harry and Meghan both know that they are obliged, if they are going to keep any links to Netflix, to keep themselves in the news constantly, and that this is an attempt of Harry's, a bold, flagrant, abusive attempt of Harry's to spin around and act as if he is still royal. I mean, no prince of any royal family would actually be so stupid as to post something as tasteless and opportunistic as that. It is an insult to Prince Philip. Let's remember, Prince Philip is the grandfather who, when he was dying, Harry and Meghan said, well, we're going to do Oprah because we think he's faking it. And if he happens to die in the meantime, we'll pull it. But otherwise, we really think he's faking it, as if he were a faker the way they are fakers. So let's not forget that. There's that aspect to it. And also, Harry is pontificating about the sacrifices of various soldiers in the Second World War, in the war against Japan. And it's offensive. It is offensive. And if had it been private, he'd have written it and he'd have found a way of getting somebody to drop a flower on Prince Philip's grave, not a public letter. And isn't it interesting that everything private that with Harry and Meghan manages to end up in the newspapers, including the dance of a thousand pads as she was twerking.
When Lady Colin Campbell starts sounding the alarm, people tend to pay attention. And this time she's making headlines with a stark assessment of Harry and Meghan's future. According to her analysis, the Sussexes may be facing some very serious challenges. Not because of one single event. Not because of one bad headline. But because of a pattern that critics say has been building for years. And whether you agree with Lady C or not, the questions she's raising are becoming harder to ignore. Let's remember where this story began. When Harry and Meghan married, they were arguably one of the most celebrated couples in the world. Global attention, massive goodwill, extraordinary opportunities. The future appeared limitless. But fast forward a few years, and the public conversation looks very different. Critics like Lady Colin Campbell argue that the problem isn't bad luck. The problem is strategy. They point to years of public interviews, high-profile media projects, family disputes playing out in public, and repeated attempts to reshape the narrative. According to critics, the result has been audience fatigue. People who once paid close attention are increasingly asking, what's the next chapter? Now let's talk about something that rarely gets discussed openly. Expectations. When Harry and Meghan left royal life, they weren't just starting a new chapter. They were launching a brand. And brands face pressure. Pressure to grow. Pressure to succeed. pressure to stay relevant. The entertainment world is brutally competitive, and relevance doesn't last forever. Here's the uncomfortable reality many commentators keep returning to. The royal connection remains central to the Sussex story. Whether supporters like hearing it or not, whether critics enjoy pointing it out or not, the monarchy remains the backdrop to almost every Harry and Meghan headline. That's why stories involving the royal family continue generating enormous attention. And this is where things become genuinely complicated. Public perception has become deeply divided. Supporters believe Harry and Meghan are unfairly targeted. Critics believe they have damaged their own credibility. Two audiences. Two realities. Two completely different interpretations of the exact same events. And that division makes rebuilding consensus almost impossible. Now let's ask the obvious question. Are Harry and Meghan actually facing a disaster? Or are we simply witnessing another cycle of exaggerated royal commentary? Because despite the criticism, they remain globally recognized. They remain influential. And they continue generating headlines unlike almost anyone else. The truth probably sits somewhere between the extremes. So what can we take away from all of this? Lady Colin Campbell believes Harry and Meghan are facing serious long-term problems. Others believe they're simply adapting to life outside the royal family. But regardless of where you stand, one thing is undeniable. The Sussex story remains one of the most fascinating public dramas of the modern era. Because it's not just about royalty. It's about fame, power, influence, public trust, and what happens when expectations collide with reality. Are Harry and Meghan facing genuine challenges? Or do critics keep predicting disasters that never actually arrive?